All right, we got our accordion done. It's all dry. It's ready to grunge it up. Before we get started there, I just want to show you how to do some mark making quick, how to use some stencils maybe, and then just how to make these fun phone stamps, which are really simple. Just give you a base so you have some stuff to build with inside your accordion journal. If you want to skip ahead, you can go ahead and do that and get to the actual grunging up of this journal. But if you want to learn how to make some of these simple pieces, then stick around. We'll get into that next. Hey crafty friends, I'm DJ. This is Hither and Yon Studio, and today we are getting into our free monthly kit. And this we are making this accordion journal, and then I have provided you with a bunch of pages of grungy, yummy goodness that you can use inside the journals. Here's just a sampling of them. If you'd like to get yours, you can go to the description box below and get your free kit. It's free, 100% free, all throughout the month of April 2025. So grab it now and then play along. All right, so we are going to first talk, before we get into that, I just want to talk about, some of the items that we can make to build out our journal along with the yummy grungy pages I gave you guys, right? So mark making is a big component of mixed media or collage and just building out grungy stuff. And I love to have a bunch of these kind of ready to go. There's a bunch of different ways to make them. So we'll make a few together. And then just to let you know, you can do these with something as simple as some book page and a Sharpie marker. Okay, we'll get into a little more advanced stuff, but if that's all you have, that's where you start. So let's go through some of these. I did some really tiny ones. So these were just like small torn pieces of book page. And as you can see, it's just some black paint. These book pages are a little more grungy. I used some Distress Oxide sprays to do these. I rolled on some acrylic color, acrylic paint color. These are really stuck together because I think I was using them as my roll off. But that's even better because we can work with them. Simple lines on the book page, just little dots. This is just black acrylic paint. It was more transparent because I put a flow. It's called Floetrol. It's a product that a lot of people who do acrylic pours use, but I just wanted it to be a little more liquidy, so I put that in there. But you can definitely just do this with straight acrylic paint, which I think I did more of here. You can see it's a little less translucent. Just some simple circles. These were just dots. We'll do a couple of pages, but I just wanted to kind of show you. Lines across the page. I came in with a paint marker or a jelly marker and just did some lines. Guys, this was just cleaning off my brush. All different patterns. You can kind of make it up as you go. And then these were more sprays, and I put some acrylic paint on there. There is some stenciling on here with modeling paste. I don't know why my brain isn't working. This is just spraying through stencil, more modeling paste that I kind of just scratched through and sprayed on, stenciling, more modeling paste with our stencils. And I do want to say that when you're doing this, you may not love the first way it looks. When it dries, it takes on a completely different look. So don't throw away. Even if you absolutely hate it, I have found that I save all of these to build upon. Look at this one. This one's one of my favorites. I'm going to leave that one out. More stencils, and then I would just kind of put down on the page that I have the paint or ink on. So just different things. We'll make a couple, okay? But I just wanted to show you kind of some of the things you can do. And then this is a book that my daughter got me at her work. And in here, I've just used the stencils with I think this is scorched timber ink and maybe ground espresso, mostly scorched timber. And I was just playing with the stencils, and everything's in the book, right? So I can just tear them out as I want to. You can work on both sides in case you find that you like one side better than the other. And there's some gesso down here also. But just playing with all the stencils. This one's really cool. It looks like street art. I feel like there's another page there, but... And you keep it in here. This one's the modeling paste again. Over some gesso. So this is ready to get some ink. So you just play, and you can keep everything in the book. This was just magic marker. Just made some circles, some dots, some V's. More magic marker, and I just took the jelly roll pen and went over it. You could use a Posca pen. You could just use white ink. You could stamp on them, which we'll probably do a little of. And then this is more modeling paste, and I went over it with, I think, vintage photo or gathered twigs, maybe. And that's it. But you can continue on and just keep a book with all your papers. I also had some loose sheets, so that's what we did here. And I'm just going to grab a couple of these out of here. I know I have some blanks too. Whoop, and all the little ones. The little ones are fun. They're super simple. So let's do some mark making first. Here we go. I have these blanks. Don't want to be responsible for bad words, so if you see them, ignore them. I used to read a lot of like Dean Koontz and stuff like that, so some horror. I can't even stand to read it now, but yeah, so you might see some of that. Okay, and then I'm going to get out some acrylic paint. I have this Mars Black, which is like a lighter type of black. My favorite Payne's Gray. These are both Liquitex. You can see this one's $5.99 from Hobby Lobby. This one too, but I usually wait until they're on sale. I have some yellow oxide. I don't know if I'll use that. I love this one too. This is the green gray. And these are just the basics, so they're like, they're not necessarily transparent. They're kind of a little heavier body. I like working with them, especially on the jelly plate. And then I have this modeling paste. This is Master's Touch, which I believe is the Hobby Lobby brand, or Michael's. I'm not sure. This one was $8.99, but again, I tend to not pay this price unless I have to. I have some Liquitex Basics Gesso. This one's in white. And then I have a bunch of stencils. I've been collecting stencils for years and years and years. I love this Dina Wakley Dilutions one. But I have a lot of Temu stencils. So, you know, just all different shapes and sizes. You know, just I love these abstract geometrics. Those are kind of my favorite. And then I don't even know where these came from. I'm sure they came from Temu. Just I'm looking at the weight of them, but I think they all came in a pack. But these are so fun. They're like these, I don't know, kind of fun, abstract, kind of street art. This one says heal. This one says art. This one says wish. Those are fun. More of those. And then I make my own stencils. So you might have seen my Instagram. I was playing with these yesterday. I just make these out of cardstock. And if you go to creativefabrica.com, I'll put the link below. You can just look up stencil or silhouettes, and you'll find a bunch of these that you can just cut out with your Cricut or your Silhouette if you have one. So I just download the file. I grab the PNG for my Silhouette. I open it on my Silhouette Studio, and then I just kind of line them up on the piece of paper. And sometimes I'll resize them for whatever. And yeah, so you can look on Creative Fabrica. You'll find these exact ones. Just look up stencils. And then you can cut out your own. But if you don't have a Silhouette or anything like that, and you don't have any stencils, don't get discouraged, because you can just make a stencil by punching holes. I think I have one here somewhere. Maybe. I thought I did, but maybe not. But you can just take a hole punch, like a regular circle hole punch, and just punch out a bunch of circles on, a business card or a piece of junk mail that you had. And then, here's one that I did. I had some circle punches, so I did some smaller ones, I did some bigger ones, and that's a perfectly good stencil. I also save these when I cut out with my Sizzix dies on my Big Shot. I try to save the ones that make sense. Some of these, after you cut out your shape, you can't really tell what it is. Like this one's kind of like that. But I try to save as many of these as I can because they're really fun to use as stencils. So if you do that, you can kind of use those as stencils. And yeah, so this is one I did. It's kind of hard to see, but it's dragonflies. And I cut this one out on the Sizzix. And I think I used this side. So yeah, and then these paper stencils are really good too. These are not long-term use. This is another one I cut out of cardstock. But they're pretty good. So these are Faber-Castell. And it came with all these stencils. And they'll last for a little while. I like to use these on the jelly plate because the more paint you get on them, the stronger they get. And that's another one I made. So yeah, so lots of different stuff. So get out your stencils. And if you're using your stencils with modeling paste and acrylic paint, I highly recommend that you have a little tray of water nearby because you want to clean them. Let's see if I spill this everywhere. So I just get these trays from the Dollar Tree and I reuse them. So it'll just keep them moist enough so that, if I'm using the modeling paste or whatever, it won't build up on the stencils. And I have a bunch of stencils, so I'll just keep throwing them in here. And if it gets a little high, I'll just add more water until I'm ready to take them up and actually wash them. So I have one there that I have if I'm using the modeling paste, and then I have another one for when I'm using the inks and the paint, and I'll just keep them separated. You gotta keep them separated. And this way I'm not mucking everything up all the time. Okay, let's make some of these and then we'll jump into the actual the stamps, right? Okay, I just need a paper towel here. And guys, I have washed my hands so many times this week. I am not doing it again. So my hands are a mess. My manicure is done for, but that's okay because we're making art. So I have a little old, pull this out. I have this old plate, again, Dollar Tree or Dollar General or some dollar store. And I just use this as my palette. So I'll just put, and you can use your jelly plate if you have one. You can use a magazine. It really doesn't matter. You just need somewhere to put your paint. And I like using this too, and I'll show you why. This does a really great dry brush technique. So if that's so what I'm doing is I'm just dipping it in a little bit of the paint and I'm getting most of that off. And then I'll just come in here and kind of pounce around. Maybe I need a little bit more. Or I'll just kind of do this, and this really big brush does it so well. So like this, and then if you go this way in a different direction, you can get some different looks. And I like the dry brush technique. It also sets a really cool backdrop, if you want to build on it. So just something you can use. I'm going to drop that in here. I'm not going to use that again. All right, so I just take the paint, and I think I got to get some actual black too, and I will just make shapes. Okay, and the more paint you have on your brush, obviously, the the more intense. But you don't, you can just make any shape. Keep this in mind that, when you're doing mixed media or collage, you're usually doing quite a bit of layering. And a lot of what you're creating is going to get covered up or lost in the background anyway. And so you just are really making marks to consider building a background. And it doesn't matter what the marks are, just go with whatever you're feeling. And guys, this is so meditative and fun to do. It's really just like being back in art class when you were a kid, because you don't have to think much about it and you can get some fun backgrounds. Now, you're going to have to decide what it is that you want to do and how you want to kind of do your mark making. I would say just make a bunch, like spend an hour, just do as many as you can. And if you do that, here and there, you'll start to develop like a style that you like. You'll start to recognize things that look good in your art, right? Because art is interpretive. It's whatever you like, and what you like to create. So let's get some more. This is the Payne's Gray. It's one of my favorite colors, but I am kind of mixing it now with this Mars Black. Yeah, and look, anybody can do this. Guys, you can do this. Anybody can. The point is to get some color down on the page so that you can tear these up and use them. Okay, we'll get a little bigger. Just going to use up the paint that's here, and then we'll move on to the stamps. And I like to dry them with my blow dryer if I need to have them right away. Sometimes I'll also put them on the jelly plate with some matte gel medium just to seal them. You don't have to, but your paint might spread as you're playing with it and working with it, which is fine. It's super fine to do whatever you want to do. So just make some shapes, and you can use a brush. I'm using a brush. You can use the stamps. We'll use some of our stamps when we make them. And you can use everyday objects like bubble wrap. Think of the things that you would use like on your jelly plate if you use your jelly plate. Let's get this out. Hold on. Okay. I have some bubble wrap here. And you can dip it in your paint, but sometimes doing this is actually very effective too, and it's not as uniform. And then you can just put it down on your page and make marks that way. And I'm almost out of paint here, but let's do another one. There, see, super simple. And then I also, I keep these rolls from tape. Let's put just a little more paint in here because we are running out. This is more of the Mars Black, but you can see I've kind of mixed everything together. So this, I like to get like a good amount of paint there, and then I'll take and just make marks with everyday objects. That's that one. This one I think was a cover of some like plumber's tape, Teflon tape. It was a little smaller, so I grabbed it. And you can do stuff like that. Old pill bottles. My dog is on Apoquel, so I have a lot of pill bottles for her. I don't have any for myself, but I do have them for her, and you can just kind of make marks like that with your pill bottle. You can also just stick it in there. You'll probably get more of a rim, but if you wanted to get like a flatter surface, you can just kind of, and you never know what object will make what design. You think you do, and then you try it and you're like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. So what else do I have in here? Yeah, just another pill bottle. I have some chopsticks. which are great for if you have, let's put a bunch of paint on here. You know, so if you wanted to kind of play along and do like I do, you can kind of use these to drag paint around, you know, kind of get it in other places. You can also just kind of put it in the paint and see where you go. I've seen people use twigs from outside. So, you know, try different things and see what you like to work with. So that's the mark making. Let's just do one with our Sharpie so you can see that you really don't need, even if you don't have paint. You can just get a Sharpie, and I like to put something under the Sharpie because it does bleed through. So my go-to is usually a piece of vellum. And then, yeah, just let your imagination go. Whatever you think. Do little raindrops. And you can color them in. You can not color them in. You can play with Zentangle if that's your thing. Maybe you like to, you know, do that kind of thing. You can just make X's. I found my X's work better if I just make all the one way first. And I don't mind if stuff's running into other stuff because, like I said, most of everything gets covered and it just sits as a backdrop. So don't think too much about it. Just get dirty, get grungy, get your markers out. You don't like this? Use pink and purple. But anyway, so you don't have to get too technical. You don't have to have like a million tools. You can just start with whatever you have. I want to do a few in the book with some stencils, so I'm just going to grab that. We'll show you a couple with the stencils of a bubble wrap. I have a bunch of different sizes over there. It's just so fun. All right, so we have our paint. Let me put this cap back on here so it can dry. All right. Let me move some of these that we just made so they can dry. And they're all plopped on top of each other, but I don't care. If they tear as I'm pulling them apart, it's even better as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so I want to use some stencils, and I want to show you with the modeling paste because that's fun, I think. Anyway, do this one. So I'm going to get to the next page. That's what this is, and it's really hard, and it's got a lot of texture, which is fun. And I'm just looking for my tool, but I don't, oh, here it is. Okay, so I'm going to use one of these. These are super cheap. You can get a whole pack of like tools like this, plastic, for a couple of bucks. Sometimes you're lucky and they come with paintbrushes too, and then you get, you know, more bang for your buck. But this modeling paste is, it's not the most expensive, but it works really good, and it's creamy. It reminds me of like softened cream cheese, and it just works through the stencils really well, and you don't need a lot. We'll start up here, and I'm just gonna like hold my stencil and drag this through, and I'm kind of like on an angle going in different directions to get that modeling paste into all those crevices. So I'll push down flat and then I'll drag across to kind of pick it back up like so. Now this had some, I don't know, some paint or something on it, so it's coming through with it, but it doesn't matter because you can gesso over it, and it'll be fine. So let's move this so I can get up here. So I'll push it down and then I'll drag it over. And if it goes under the stencil a little, that's fine for me, but you know, you may want to be a little more precise. So I try to get it pretty thin though, because it dries faster, simply. If you want to go a little thicker, just consider that it's probably going to take a little longer to dry. So you can see we've got some depth there. I'm going to throw this in my water bath. and get another stencil. This one's really cool. I was playing with this one with the inks yesterday. It's got a bunch of numbers, kind of like a journal page or an accountant's book or something. And I did it this way, so this is the correct way with the numbers. But I'm going to flip it over this way. Just kind of put it over here. And just use I don't care that it's the opposite way. That's kind of cool, actually. Like that. And this is really thick, so that will take a while to dry. And consider that, especially if you're working in a book, you know, you don't want to close the page on what you just did. So I'm going to have to keep this page open so that it can dry. And you can come in here with a heat tool. Some of the modeling paste will bubble, which you may love. Some of it doesn't. So you just kind of got to play. And until you get your hands dirty, you're not going to know. All right. So that's with the stencils. Lots of different things you can do. I do like them with the scorched timber. Here it is. It's like a greenish black. And I'm just going to go on this page because I put that modeling paste. But let me clean this off quick. I could just throw it in my water bath, but it just takes a second. And we'll cover this up. Okay. So this is Distress ink, and this one is in the scorched timber. This one's my favorite color for this, and this is a juicy pad, so it works really well. And then you can just kind of swirl it in. You can stamp it. You can do the same thing with paint. You can get one of those makeup sponges and kind of stamp your paint in. I don't like to do it too perfectly, and I'll do some bits dark, and then I'll come and do some that are a little lighter and just let it fade off the page. It really just depends, but that's, yeah, so that's working with stencils, a bunch of different ways, just different things that you can do to build backgrounds. The point is, you're just trying to build up some texture and some color so that when you put them down on your page, you have kind of a base to work with. Okay, let me clean up some of this and I will be right back and we'll do the stamps. Okay, we're going to talk about stamps. So these are some of the foam stamps that I've created. Very simple shapes. This one I didn't even use yet. Some leaves I did. We'll do a leaf because it's a little more complex. I think it'll be fun. I did a little bird. This one I still have to mount and fix, but I just hand drew it. Well, I'll show you. I'll show you the process. These are great for backgrounds because they're just geometric. They just kind of fade into the background, and they're super easy to make, and you can make a bunch of them, right? You don't have to, you know, craft foam is really inexpensive, and you can make so many. So this is what I use. It's these thinner craft foam sheets. This is like the kid foam, you know, if you have kids and they played with foam making things. That's what this is. This one was, does it even tell me how much it was? It was very inexpensive. Let's see. I don't think I have the cover anymore, but all these sheets, this is going to last me like forever. Literally forever, because there is no way I will go through all of these. But anyway, this is what I use. Let's just pick out a piece, and it doesn't matter what color it is. But you can use your favorite color. It doesn't matter because it's going to be covered up. And then something else that I use is some of this foam board. So this is this was a huge sheet. It was 20 by 30 inches, and I think I cut the price off, but it was a couple of bucks. It's got a foam core, which is where the name comes from, and I just cut these. And I also use, I have this bag of like cereal box ends and chipboard that I use in journals. So I have a bunch of this. Let me grab out one because once you make one, you're going to want to make a million. They're so fun. And so what I do is I put the foam on this flexible piece because it's just a little lighter to work with. It's a little easier to glue with. And then I put it on the foam core, like you can see here. So this is the foam, this is the chipboard, and then this is the foam core, because the foam core gives it a solid base. Can you use it just with this? Absolutely, you can. And you can kind of, there is some goodness, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but there, it's great sometimes to have that flexibility because you can just use one side or the other. I can still do that with this, but it's a little more sturdy. So I like to use these on the jelly plate, and I like to use them in this instance. So I like it to be a little more solid, but I have both. I do use both. All right, and we'll just cut out some real basic shapes. You don't have to have incredible, skills of drawing. You don't. What are we going to make? We'll just make some squiggles. I don't think I have any of that. So I'm just going to literally do this. Okay, and then I'll come up and, make a little line, and then I'll do this to kind of make a squiggle. Now, when you're cutting it out, you can adjust this. So this one I went a little close, so I might, kind of do this. It doesn't matter if you redraw it because you're not going to see these lines after you use them a couple of times anyway. Yeah, so go grab your kids' craft foam. And if you have it a little thicker, that's fine too. This is just the one that I have had. I also use the craft foam to put under things to give them some lift in journals. So yeah, you can cut a piece off, and instead of using pop dots or something, you can just glue a piece of this in. So anyway, I am going to now just cut this out, and I'm not going to be super precise. And I'm just using my tonic scissors, but this stuff cuts so easy. It's literally so easy to cut. Literally. Okay, so I have the 3. I could cut a bunch more, but for the sake of the video. And then I'm just going to glue them down onto this paper. And I like to use Fabrifix. It holds it really well, and it dries pretty quick. So I guess I'll put the pen side down. It don't matter. Screaming at me. All right, so we'll glue these down, and then we will glue this piece down to our foam core, and then you want to let it dry really good because you're going to be putting a lot of pressure on these, and line them up however you want. You could add some other pieces in here. So I could take like maybe this. Use your imagination, right? You get to be a kid again. Let's do it this way. You get to just not think too much about it. Just it's beautiful. It's always beautiful. Remember, you used to bring your artwork home and you'd show your mom and dad, and they'd be like, "Oh, it's so lovely." But was it? But it's okay because, it's your art. And you probably think up 100 different shapes that you could do. And you can see what I mean. Like, this foam is going to last forever. Like, I still have this entire piece. Let's just do this, and then we'll get on with it. All right, so this will go here. So I just wanted to fill in some of those spots to make it a little more interesting. And again, I think of these in terms of most of what I make is probably just going to be lost in the background anyway. So I don't try to, worry too much about it. Do I have? Nah. Okay. So we'll just put this to the side. You can make a whole stamp just out of the stuff you cut off of for the other stamps. Cool abstract stuff. Okay. And then I just take a piece of foam core and I will glue this down, and that one's banged up a little so it's not as flat and even, so I'm going to do it down here. I'm just going to glue this whole thing down. Simple skills, big results. And I try to make like a little bit of an outline on it. I don't know why, it's just what I do. Okay, and when this is dry, I will cut it out. So I'm going to leave this to dry. And then I like to put a handle on them. So this is just another piece of the cardboard. Okay, and I'll just cut, like that. I fold it in half. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then I'll kind of just put my thumb there and fold this up and fold it towards my other finger. And then I'll put it down on the table like this and kind of just work it so that the bottom is flat. So I want this flat because that's what I'm going to be attaching to the back of my block. And then I just throw some glue in here. And I will clip it. Okay, and I'll let that dry first. And then once it's dry, I can glue it onto the back here and here and just hold it down. And then I might use, depending on the size of the stamp, I'll either hold it, I'll put something to weigh that down, or I'll use more clips to kind of hold it in place. When it's in the center here, the clips sometimes don't reach. So I'll just hold it there for a few minutes until I feel like it's going to hold. And less is more with the glue here because the less you use of this Fabrifix, the easier it is to, the faster it'll adhere. All right. So that is our stamps. And then I'll run through them again. And guys, if you see something that I do, I know sometimes I go a little fast and it upsets some people, but you can always ask me to redo a section, or you can always go back and rewind and watch it again. You can slow down your speed. There's always, the little gear. If you click on that, you can change the speed to slower so that you can watch it a little slower. But yeah, so I made a little birdie. I just kind of whoop, whoop, and then I gave him a tail. And this is going to be his wing for here. So I will stamp this one, and then this I would stamp on top of the stamped image to make kind of like, it would look like this on his arm. And then, I can draw in an eye. So, but these are great for background, so we'll use some of them. So that's how you make the stamps. All right, we're going to get grungy now. I've waited long enough. I am going to get my small jelly plate, but again, feel free to use, actually, let me use a book. I like the jelly plate because it preserves ink, but if I get a plate, then maybe it'll be more accessible to you guys. I'm going to get a roller, but if you don't have a roller, you can use, I love to use makeup sponges. You can get these at the dollar store for like nothing, $1. You get a bunch of them in a bin, so we can do that. And I just got to grunge it up, right? Now I'm getting into the grungy. So somebody asked how many pages I had in this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But that doesn't mean I'm going to stop there, but that's where I am now, and this is what I'm going to grunge up. Okay, So I need some browns because I do. I'm going to use some acrylic paint. I'll probably use some inks as well. These are Master's Touch. So this one's Raw Umber. I like the darker ones. That's also Raw Umber. What else do I have here? You saw the Mars Black, so I have that. This is Burnt Umber, so we'll use a little of that. You can see it's a little lighter. And these are, I think, the Hobby Lobby brand. Okay, so I'm going to start, I think, with a little Mars Black and a little Raw Umber. Okay, and I'm going to take my brayer here, and then I have this surface down here, which is just some gift wrap paper, actually. I'll show you. There are these rolls. This one's white. The gray shows up better on camera. So, but you can get 2 of these. Look how much is in there. And I think it was like $9. So let's see. There's a size on this one. There's the brand, Venhench. 17.5 inches, which is this width, by 150 feet. And I think I got 2 of them, or maybe they were $9.99 each. But anyway, I use them all the time. They're just easy to roll out and roll back up. All right, let me stop chatting. But I just wanted to let you guys know. So I'm going to do a combination of this. This is why I like the jelly plate better. See how this is seeping into the book page? But that's okay. I just want to make sure that you guys can feel like you can do it. And we're going to add maybe a little of this is the Burnt Umber. And I'm not even really thinking too much about it. I just want to get some color down. And I can go over it, so it doesn't matter. Like, this is what I want to do, so that's what I'm going to do. I'll mix, and I'll just keep mixing on here like a palette. Maybe I want more black. I can take the page and bring this out more. I can just use this as a stamp. And if I get some down here, that's fine. It's messy. I love messy, so I'm not upset about it. Okay, we can do something like that. I can take my foam and I can kind of work that around to kind of move the paint. But sometimes, you see how I have these, streaks from the brayer? Sometimes I really like the way they look when they dry, so I'll leave them. But if you're trying to make the most of your paint, then obviously, you want to kind of move it around. You can stretch it. You can use a paintbrush. You can finger paint. It doesn't matter. Whatever you like to do. Again, we're just getting some color down so that we can build on it. Okay. And that may look like different things to you. Maybe we'll add some of this green gray, mix it in and see how that all works. I don't know. I'm experimenting. Yeah, see, you just never know until you're actually playing, like what it's going to look like how the colors look over one another. So more of the brown. This is the Raw Umber. And if you are using your jelly plate, you kind of get a twofer because then you can put a piece of paper over it and get a print, pull a print too. All right, I think it needs some Payne's Gray, which is, oh, my favorite. I love this color so much. I don't know what it is about it, but it just, it's a mood. It's a mood to me. Now you can also take your stencils. Let me grab a stencil. Okay, these are some of my paper stencils. So we can put one of these here. And actually, let's put it over here. And I can just kind of come in and do some intentional stenciling as well. Like that, and we're just kind of dropping color. So let me get some of that green. But play with it. You might want to come back over with some white gesso and do that. I think that's kind of cool. What do I got here? Let's do this lighter one. And I'm going to take this basket weave and just play. We're just going to play. And these paper stencils, they are not meant to last forever. But the more paint you get on them, the more durable they actually become. It stiffens up and it gives you a little more play time. Like that. And then when that dries, I might go back in with some gray, light gray or white. But you kind of got to just mess with it and then see what you like. Learn about what you don't like and remember that it's only paper. It's only paint. You can remake the book if you're really that not loving it that much. So I'm going to dry this side and then we'll work on the other side. Actually, I have one more here we can do with some of this leftover paint here. And you can also take your stencil and just kind of roll through the stencil too. So lots of ways to play. And even though that's tone on tone, it like really looks cool. At least it does in my opinion. Okay, so I'm going to leave that. That almost looks like, what is that? Diamond plate, I think. All right, let me dry this. And then I will be right back. Okay, I got to clean up this book. That's dry. I just want to... Remember when you were a kid, maybe you guys didn't do this, but we would take paint and put it between two pieces of paper and make like ink blots. That's what this reminds me of. But I'm going to get off some of that paint, but I'm also going to make a background that I can use in the future. I kind of think of all of these as potential pieces for collage or for mixed media or whatever. So I'm going to get these off of here, put them to the side, and we'll use our stamps. I thought I would show you guys them in use rather than work on the other side because, oh, and I wanted to make a leaf with you, but we'll get there. We'll get there. We can't do it all at once. All right. So I've cleaned off my brayer, or maybe you want to get a clean sponge. This is just the acrylic gesso. This is a white gesso. They make black and clear, and the matte gel medium here you can kind of use as a gesso and mix it with any color you want. So I'm just going to take my brayer and the gesso, and now I can stamp my stamp right in here if I wanted. that works too, especially if you're on a jelly plate. See, we're just adding some dimension. I don't want the whole stamp to stamp. I can brayer on here also. And again, this is gesso, but you could use white acrylic paint. And I am just tapping it. I need a bigger desk. So let's go back in here. And these are just going to push back anyway most of the time, but it's just a level of dimension. Like so. What else do I have in here? This one's really cool. It's just a bunch of squares in different sizes. I started to make a checkerboard and then I pixelated it out a little, which I love. And you can just reuse these over and over and over again, and you don't have to clean them. As a matter of fact, I like when I don't clean them and I get textures in the stamps from leftover paint or ink or whatever it is I'm using. That looks really cool over the diamond plate. All right, so just some ways to use the stamps. Again, we're just building a background, and if you want to push some of that back, you can do that with the gesso as well, which sometimes I do. I don't know. I just want to show you guys some options, and then I might go over that with another color anyway. All right, so this is what we have. We've done some stamping, and I'm going to dry this off, and then we're just going to use some of those mark making pages that we made, and I'll show you how to get them attached on here. I'm going to use my matte gel medium to attach them, and a foam brush or a bristle brush, I'm not sure which. So I'll be right back, and we will do that. Okay, so I have a bunch of these pages. And I grabbed some pages from the kit, and again, if you didn't see it in the previous video, I did put some matte gel medium on a jelly plate, rolled it out, and then I put these on top to get a coating on top of these, because these are inkjet and they will run, which actually for this project I don't mind, but in some projects you may not want to have that happen, and so I gave you some options for that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start putting down some of these pages. I'm going to get a foam brush. Actually, let me get this. This is you can definitely use a foam brush. I like to use these because they're easy cleanup and they have a really flat surface, so it makes getting stuff down super easy. And I just want to pull out, and you may want to keep this in mind. When you pull away from you, the piece that you're pulling away from you will not have the white on it, but the piece that you're pulling off of will. So as you're, doing that, you may want to consider that you might not want this white part on your page, so you just want to get used to how the paper is going to act. And I am just going to, I want to get some of these down. I'm going to take my acrylic matte medium and put it over here. And then I'm just going to take my brush, and these are just silicone brushes. I believe these are down on my description box if you want to get the exact same ones that I have. But I'm just going to put some of this medium down, and more than I probably need. And then and I want to be aware of where my crease is. And get some more on top there. Now, going over the acrylic paint, I may have to do this a couple of times because sometimes it dries a little shiny and the paper doesn't want to stick or whatever the case may be. But this is where it's handy that you kind of put the matte gel medium over the pages, because then the more you work the page, the less chance you have of making all that ink run, especially if you're using inkjet. If you're using laser or magazine pages, it really doesn't matter as much. So I like that. And then I think I want some of this one, because because I think this one's really cool. I'm not a fan of straight lines, as you'll probably have figured out. So, and again, I'm just building a background. Now you may get to a point where you're like, oh, I really like the way that looks. I'm not going to change it anymore, and that's fine. But I never know until I'm completely done what I'm doing. And I'm just pushing this a little harder because I noticed that it's bubbling already. So there we go. All right, and this will dry clear, so don't worry about that. That's why I like the matte gel medium, because it dries matte. It's not shiny. It's nice and clear. I have these little pieces. And you can see here what I was kind of talking about. Between the gesso that you saw me put down in the previous video and the matte, the acrylic paint rather, we're getting some texture there. It might be a little hard to see on camera, but I love that. It's one of my favorites about, you know, kind of not doing everything so even and smooth and so on, is that you get these great textures just from paint or from your gesso, or the way you glued stuff down. You know, like if I were to kind of mess with this, I could probably make a crease in it, which it's not going to do now. Maybe we'll do it with the next one. But I want to get some backdrops down. Oh, these pages are gorgeous. I love grunge. Do you guys love grunge? Leave me a comment if you love grunge. And if you're new to grunge and you're not sure yet, let me know. Let me know. Just drop a comment down there. Let me know what you think of this project. I know I'm keep getting off out of frame. Sorry about that. Yeah, just let me know how you're feeling about it. Is it out of your comfort zone? It's definitely out of mine sometimes. But I kind of think like most things are. Like, sometimes I just feel like, you know what? I don't know. But then at the end, I end up loving it. So let's go this way. Put you over there, maybe. I just want to make sure it's going to adhere down. I don't want it moving. So these silicone brushes are really good because they're flexible. I can kind of scrape like this. I love them for that. But, you know, you can use your finger. You can do all sorts of stuff. Let's add a little more texture on here. What do I have? I have this. Just take a section of it. Now, you may not have acrylic medium. You may have Mod Podge or whatever. That's fine. Use what you have. Start where you are, and you can always test other stuff later. Where is that? Oh, I love this page. This one's so cool. All right, I need my ruler, I think. I want to rip this. I don't know. I just like the way these leaves look. And you can put the gel medium right on your project. It's not really going to hurt it none. You just want to be aware that every layer you add adds more dimension. It makes it a little thicker. So depending on, you know, how you want to close your book, you may want to consider that. Not trying to be out of frame, guys. I'm really not. I'm trying to pay attention. Just that my desk is so small that sometimes I'm working in a small frame in my brain. Okay, so those are those. And then I do love this one. And maybe some more of this. I like how these circles kind of work with those circles. Maybe we'll put it up here. It's kind of cool. Yeah, so we're just laying a base to work with, or at least that's what I'm doing, to build more on. So that's why I wanted to give you guys these different papers, because I felt like each one would have a little something different to offer, and it might speak to one person, whereas something else might speak to somebody else. The way these printed with my settings, these are a little greener to me, some of them, which is fine. Sometimes your printer settings can give you different results. So I try to print the same page with a couple of different settings just to see kind of how things are going to work out. I love this whole door, so I think I want to use it. Ooh, I lost my ruler already. That was quick. Yeah, that is nice. Okay, it's going to cover up. See, that's what I mean. Like, you never know. And actually, maybe we'll put it over here. You never know what you'll be covering up and what you'll be keeping, so I wouldn't worry too much and stress too much about your mark making and your backgrounds and all of that, because in the end you could just, like here, cover it all up. But I do want to be aware of where my creases are. Here we go. So if you have just Elmer's glue, use that. It'll work. These, I don't expect that my little accordion book here is going to be in the Museum of Art and Technology in the year 2724. So I'm not in it for, years and years of... I do like the way it looks, and I hope it stays around for a while, but you know what? If you got Elmer's glue and you want to play, use it. Okay, so we got a bunch of stuff down, and I'm gonna dry it. Actually, I think I need to build more, so I'm lying. I need stuff here. This is a good one. Nice. Sorry, I'm out of frame again. And if it goes off the page, I can always cut it off if I want. Sometimes I'll just wrap it around to the other side. I have this one here, so let's put this somewhere. This word curated is sitting here looking at me, and I want it. I did curate a lot of these images, which is why it said curated content. I want it here. It's too straight. There we go. Let go. There we go. All right. Yeah, I still need more. These keys are cool. I don't know how much of this will actually come through in the end, but we have to have a starting point. You just got to put stuff down. Don't think about it too much. If you think about it too much, it's going to hold you up. You can't think about it. You can't think, oh, that's not the right spot. I don't know how that's going to, don't. Just put it down. Put it down. You can cover it up. You can think about it a little, but eventually you're going to have to pull the trigger. Now, if you're confused about something I'm doing or a decision I'm making, you want to know why, just leave it in the comments. I'm happy to kind of get you into my head of why I did what. But when I'm creating, I'm just kind of putting stuff down. I'm not, I don't know, I just see something I like and I put it down. That's what I do. And that doesn't come like immediately. I think over time I had to teach myself to just relax into it. Just trust the process and get stuff down. This is cool here. This bit. Okay. All right, guys. So this gives us a base. I'm going to come back in and do some additional stuff, but this video is already pretty long, and I don't want to lose you guys. I would suggest kind of getting in, get dirty. You don't have to copy me exact, but I know sometimes when you're getting started, it's a lot easier to just kind of mimic what somebody else is doing, and that's fine. But eventually you're going to have to kind of go out on your own and kind of do your own thing. So in the next video, I'm going to do the other side. I'm going to pretty much do what I did on this side. So don't worry, you don't have to see every step. You can just rewatch this video and then, do the other side that way. Or you could use the other side to experiment with other things, which maybe we'll do in the next video. But I'm probably just going to put my base down anyway. I'm going to let this dry. Leave me any of your questions in the description box below. And if there's anything I missed and you're trying to get a hold of, like these brushes, just let me know and I'll give you the link. But most everything I get is either Temu or Amazon. So, yeah, that's it. All right, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great rest of your day or night. Bye!